I'd like to introduce myself if I haven't met you yet. My name's Jono, and welcome. Hey, how you doing? Nathan. This is Nathan. I'm Joe Nathan, and this is Nathan. Get to know him. He's an amazing guy. Hey, why don't you guys turn to your neighbour and say, what have you got to lose? You can have a seat. Thank you. Thanks, band. What have you got to lose? Man, I love our church. There's so many great things that happen during the week on a Sunday at our church. But I'm a little bit biased, so I'm going to go on an unashamed rant as to probably the coolest ministry in the whole of the church, which is the Next Gen ministry. And this involves the youth, which is grade 6 through to grade 10. We meet on a Friday night, and then we've got young adults who meets fortnightly, and that's 16 to 30-ish. And we just have an absolute blast. And one of the things that I'm going to show you today is this Pulse notebook. Now, our mission is to give one of these notebooks to every young person that's in our church, because at C3 Hobart, in the Next Gen ministry, we actually believe that sometimes the scriptures are a little bit like pizza. You know, sometimes pizza is best served cold the next day. And so when you write down what you've heard from this pulpit, when you write down what you've read in your Bible, you can actually revisit it later on in the week. And you know what? I didn't actually feel like pizza back then, but my word, this cold pizza is speaking to me right now. Amen? Can I get an amen? Awesome. So, who's ready for some hot, fresh pizza right out of the oven right now? Brilliant. Turn to your other neighbour, the one that you don't like as much, and say, what have you got to lose? What have you got to lose? No, we love everyone in here equally. There's no second favourites. I know that you had such a hard decision working out. And the ones that are on the end, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to you because you've only got one neighbour. But anyway. Hey, our vision, I love vision builders. Our vision here at C3 Hobart is to reach and build. Is to reach people on a journey to faith and to build strong followers of Christ. And you know, this is our take on the Great Commission. Jesus said, go into all the world and make disciples of every nation. It seems pretty easy, doesn't it? It's pretty straightforward. We've got one job. My wife always says to me, you've got one job. And I do it well. But our job as fellow believers in Christ is to go and make disciples of all nations. So what have you got to lose? Well, actually, the answer to that question is sometimes we think we've got quite a lot to lose. And often, I don't know about you, but I'm certainly guilty of this, is that often the opportunity presents itself for us to go after the one, to actually speak to a friend or family about our faith and you know, speak into their life, speak life into their life. And yet, we pull back. That's pushing forward. We pull back. And why do we pull back? I actually believe that we pull back because we fear what we could lose. Now, all throughout this month, you've heard Sean talk about the series called The Value of One. We're going to be spending this month in the book of Luke, chapter 15. And in this book, Jesus is causing a bit of trouble, as he always does. He's upsetting the Pharisees because he, in their words, this man receives sinners and eats with them. Oh my gosh, so offensive. But to the Pharisees, this was huge. You don't do that, apparently. And you don't receive sinners, let alone eat with them. So Jesus then goes on and actually talks through 3 stories, 3 parables. We've got the parable of the lost sheep, the parable of the lost coin, and the parable of the lost son. Now, if you've got your Bibles with you today, I'd encourage you to just turn to Luke chapter 15. I'm not going to, refer to any specific scriptures, but if you go to Luke chapter 15, just earmark it. So again, like the pizza, you can come back to it during the week, dwell in it, read it, get your own revelation as to what these parables actually mean, because there's so much in there. And it's pretty clear throughout these parables what each person had to lose, what they'd lost, sorry. It's quite clear. We see that there was a man, a shepherd, in fact, who had lost a sheep. And then there was a woman who'd lost a coin. And lastly, there was a father who had lost a son. But what I want to focus on this morning is not necessarily what was lost, but first, what they all had to lose by going after that which was lost. Because I actually feel like, I believe that, if we believe that Jesus died for us and for everyone, we wouldn't have a problem sharing that with other people. I mean, it's of utmost importance, and yet we find ourselves on the back foot, fearful of potentially what we could lose. And I think these three parables actually articulate well what's on the line, what we potentially could lose in going after the one. So, the first story is that of the shepherd and him losing a sheep. Now, the thing that I think in this story that the shepherd had to lose was money. And I'm going to tell you why I think that's the case. But first, I'm going to share something with you that you may not know about me. No, James Atkinson, I am a cat supporter, but everyone in this church would probably know that because I talk about it all the time. But what I don't talk about is my secret closet love for rap music. I will never be a critic of a sweet, fresh lyric, and I've always got the time for a mighty fine rhyme. So, what I thought I would do is bring the story of the lost sheep to you in a way that I'm sure you have never heard told before, because it's going to be in the style of Jay-Z. Are we okay with that? Can we get a little bit unrighteous and just go with this morning? All right, okay. Pray for me, because I'm going to need it. I'm nervous as all get out. This is one of the first times that my raps have come out into society. So let's go with this, okay. A shepherd out in the field watching sheep. He's never lost any, he's no little Bo Peep. 1 to 100, he counts them every time. Watches them grow up so that he can make a dime. They're his livelihood, they're how his family eats. Vegans don't pay him, it's the ones who like meat. Or maybe he makes coin from the wool off their back. He's just trying to make a living, boy, give him some slack. One afternoon, he goes and does his count. 98, 99, that's the wrong amount. I swear there was 100 when I counted this morn. It appears one of my sheep is up and gone. I have a decision to make, it's not an easy one. I got 99 sheep, but I'm going after the one. Say what? There we go. Jay-Z is prophetic, and he didn't even know it. 99 sheep and I'm going after the one. Say what? But you see, the shepherd's job was to look after the sheep. This was how he made a living. Now, we're not quite sure, because it's a parable, it's a made-up story. We're not really sure as to whether they were his sheep. But probably if we look at the context of the time, it was more likely that he was looking after someone else's sheep and that he would be paid a wage to look after these sheep. So I bring a little bit of context to this by flipping it forward to my own job in the current day, and just imagine that, okay, maybe my job is that I'm looking after sheep in the current day. Which conversation would you rather have with your boss? Conversation A. Yeah, g'day Barry. Look, there's been a bit of a sitch down here at the field. Yeah, no, don't worry, got it under control. Look, we seem to have, one of the sheep's kind of escaped, but look, I've thought through an action plan. We're gonna write it down to bad debt, and look, what I'm going to do is I'm going to schedule a lunchtime meeting with the rest of the sheep tomorrow, and just inform them and educate them as to the risks of running off, and that'll keep the OH&S people happy and safe. And look, and I think we're still on track to meet our quarterly budget. I think we can do this with 99 sheep. So that's conversation one. The second conversation is, hello, Barry. How's the wife? Yeah. Oh, no, thanks. Mine's good too. Look, do you know what's happened down here at the field? Everything's okay. I've got it under control, or well, at least I think I do, because I've lost a sheep, and it's kind of getting dark, and I could hear a few wolves howling around the back. But I just felt like it was really important to go after that one sheep. I've left 99 of your sheep out in the middle of the wilderness doing absolutely no supervision. There's wolves all around. I don't know what's going to happen to them, but it's okay, because I'm pretty confident I can get this one. I haven't found him yet, but I'm confident I can find him. Which one would the world tell us is the better solution? You know, I grew up with my mum always telling me that, you know, a bird in the hand's worth two in the bush, and all those kind of things. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. Rome wasn't built in a day. I don't know how the last two relate to what I'm trying to say, but the first one certainly does. In that a bird in the hand's worth two in the bush. You see, the world has told us that it's better to take stock of what we have and go to a fear of not losing that, rather than going out of our way and out of what we know to actually go after the one. And look, I liken that to maybe this church environment. Maybe you're comfortable just hanging out with the 99, which are all your fellow believers here in these walls that actually just, you know, they believe the same things as you do. They're not going anywhere. Maybe they're just, you know, that's a safe place to go. And that's what the world tells us. But in fact, the shepherd had a lot to lose by going after that one sheep, because he's not going to get paid if he loses 99 sheep. Whether he owns them or not, he's not getting paid for that. That's not a job well done in my book. So that's the first thing that I feel like maybe sometimes keeps us away from actually going out and having a conversation with someone. You know, going after the one is a fear that maybe it's actually going to cost us something. You know, we all know that being generous, taking someone out for lunch, you know, having a coffee, maybe shouting them, I don't know what it is, but we know that generosity opens up the doors to be able to speak life into people. We know that maybe through generosity they could see the actions of Christ, and yet it costs us something. And we go, wow, but I'm not 100% sure, God, that that's not going to be a waste of money. I need some kind of certainty that you're going to return that to me, because I don't want to go out on a limb and just, you know, kind of go spruiking money. I'm not an ATM. The second thing that I think we have a fear of potentially losing comes from the parable of the lost coin. Now, don't get me wrong, obviously she's lost a coin, which is money. And so you could go, oh, Jono, you're just trying to make the same point twice. No, I actually believe that if you think about it, what this lady had to lose was her time. Now, why do I say that? If you didn't realise, a coin is an inanimate object. It doesn't speak. It doesn't move. I know there might be some of you out there going, well, Jono, you don't haven't seen my bank account. It starts at one amount, and then by the end of the week, it's all gone. I don't know where it went. That's a different sermon. So we'll talk about that later. But the thing is that she had her other 9 coins, right? So she's got 10 coins. She loses one. It's kind of like that McDonald's ad where they're rummaging through, you know, the pillows and stuff to try and find their loose change to go and buy a burger. But she's got 9 coins in her back pocket and she's missing one. So really, for her to go and look for that extra coin, it's not costing her any money. She knows where her money is. It's costing her her time. What happens if she doesn't find that coin? Well, that's a grand old waste of time, isn't it? You could have been spending that time doing anything else, but you were looking for a coin. And I think that, you know, again, we know that spending time with our friends and our family and really, you know, being there in a time of need and being able to speak and go along with the journey and do life, you know, not just do a Sunday, but do church Monday through Sunday alongside people is actually one of the ways that we can actually speak life into people. Is we can get people to understand the nature of Christ through our actions in that space. And yet, we have the fear that we're going to waste our time. So I'm going to ask you again, what have you got to lose? We'll just bring this back on track. What have you got to lose, church? So we've established that there's a chance you could lose some money in going after the one. There's a chance you could lose some time going after the one. But the third one comes from the parable of the lost son. And I think this is about relationship. How many times have you been in a situation where you go, oh, you know what? I could invite that friend to church, but we've known each other for so long now. I just don't want to lose what we've got. We're building something really good now. It's just not the right time. Have you ever thought about the parable of the lost son? If you haven't heard it before, I'll summarise. There's a father who has two sons. He's a very wealthy father. And one son puts his hand up and says, "Dad, I'm out. I've just turned 18. I've got the big grand world to go and explore, and I want my inheritance right now." So the father goes, "All right, it's not how I would have done things, but I'll divvy up all the assets and I'll give you your half. Off you go, son. You have my blessing. Be well." And he goes and he squanders it on high living and all the rest of it, only to realize that actually that wasn't fulfilling, and all he wants is to be back in his father's house. And so he returns, and his father, who, remember, he's got another son who's been faithful throughout, who's been hanging out, kind of going, doing all his dad's work. The father sees the son in the distance as he's coming home, and he rushes to greet him, and he gets the big robes and kills the fatted calf, and they have a massive party. So what in this did he have to lose relationship? How did he have to lose? He gained a relationship back, surely. But you know what? There was another son in this picture. He risked losing the respect of his other son. His other son could have said, "Dad, I cannot believe that you're not a man of your word. You gave him his inheritance, he's out. Well, the rest is mine. You're now spending my inheritance, welcoming him back in the family." You know, he could have lost all respect for his dad and potentially lost that relationship. And you see, every single time that we have the opportunity to take ground and to actually go after the one, there's a cost. And sometimes the fear of what we have to lose, it's not even a definite that we're going to lose it, but that we could lose, actually stops us from action. So it could cost us our money, our time, and potentially our relationships. But in each of these stories, the perceived price that was paid, it was paid without a second thought. In fact, Jesus goes so far as being a little bit audacious, a little bit cheeky, I feel, and just kind of, you know, he's like telling a story like of going, you know, who wouldn't do this? He uses this language, and I'll share it with you, but he goes, "Oh, who wouldn't do this?" So if you are sitting there going, "Oh, I wouldn't do that," you instantly feel like you're in the minority, right? Because you're going, maybe everyone does it that way. I thought I was the only one. Well, maybe I'm the only one. But what he says is this. He says, Luke 15, chapter 15, verse 4, "What man of you, having 100 sheep, if he loses one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after the one which is lost until he finds us?" It almost makes out there's no other option. Because to them, to each individual, the value of what is lost far outweighs the cost of what they potentially could lose. So what I want to ask you this today, C3 Hobart, what's it worth? What is the value of one worth? You see, in every transaction, there's cost and value associated with things. People prioritize different things in different ways, but everything that has a cost has a value. I want to share with you a little bit of a story about my upbringing. I grew up in an Anglican church, and I went with my parents. We'd go every Sunday without question, but to me, I didn't really enjoy it. It wasn't a thing that I enjoyed. It was like a mandatory task. I had a friend, though, who did love church. He loved Jesus. And he used to always invite me to youth group every Friday night, and sometimes I'd say yes and sometimes I'd say no. But you know what he did? He would go out of his way. He'd say, "Hey, John, I'm picking you up at 6 o'clock. We're going out to have a bite of Macca's." Maybe that's why I went with him, because my parents did not like junk food, and any opportunity for a Big Mac, thank you. He picked me up. He'd shout me some food. We'd chat. We'd hang out. And then we'd go to youth group. And as I said, I went a few times. But as I kind of grew up, got into, college, grade 11 and grade 12, I kind of started saying no to him because, I was a sportsman, musician, debater, all the rest of it. I had stuff to do. And so I started saying no, and we, as friends, actually drifted apart. because it kind of got a little bit annoying that he kept asking. And I was like, man, I've told you no. Like, when will you get the gist? I don't want to do this anymore. But then what happened is I moved down to Hobart for university. And I was living at a college, and residential college, and I had all these liberties granted to me because I had a scholarship, so I had money. I didn't have the rules of my parents. I had time. I had my charisma. Had the world was my oyster, right? And I went and I conquered. And yet, it didn't take me very long to realize that buying stuff and going to parties and all that, it just didn't really fulfill me. I didn't really find as though I think all three in one, I felt like all three of those lost things. I felt like a lost sheep. I felt like I'd bitten off more than I can chew, that I'd gone out on my own and I'd stuffed up. I'd say, I can do this on my own. Parents, be gone with you. I'm gone. I can do this. I'm ambitious. I'm going out of the flock. I felt like the lost coin because I didn't have a voice. I didn't feel like I could speak up. I didn't feel like I was lost. I couldn't alert people to the fact I was lost. I was standing there going, the world wants me to keep doing this. The world wants me to keep drinking. The world wants me to keep, trying to buy people's attention and affection. But I can't really, I don't have a voice to speak up. I'm a coin. And I felt like the lost son in that I'd been given all this stuff from my parents, a good education, the opportunity to be successful. They'd loved me, they'd cared for me, they'd done all these things for me, and I'd stuffed it up. I'd run away from it all. I'd gone and squandered it. But around that time that I was feeling these lows, that friend actually gave me a call. Because there was a Youth Alive rally that was here in Hobart, and he was still in Launceston, and he was coming down for the week. He's like, hey, Jono, I know we haven't caught up in a while, man, but I'd really like to hang out with you. And all I desired at that point in time was just a friend who felt familiar, something that felt like home. And so I said yes. I said, hey, look, let's do it. Let's go. I'll shout you this time because I've got so much money and all. Thinking that's what you did. But hey, look, I was being generous in my own way. And we went along to the Youth Alive night, and I tell you what, I do not remember what Reggie Dabbs, I remember it was Reggie Dabbs, but I don't remember what he spoke about, some story. It didn't make sense to me. Maybe James was there as well. He might remember, I don't know. It obviously impacted me so deeply. But what did impact me deeply was when he said, is there anyone out there that's lost? And I was just like, hey man, I don't know what you've said. I probably wasn't even really listening, to be honest. But that struck a chord with me because I felt lost. I felt lost. And he said, because Jesus gave his life to find you. And again, I walked up the front and I gave my life to Christ that night. I didn't quite understand the magnitude of that, but I knew that was to me what I needed. That moment right there was what it was worth. Feeling like I had a purpose, feeling like I had wholeness in my life again, feeling like I wasn't doing this alone, was the worth of the cost. And now, what did it cost? Well, it cost my friend, I estimate about $50.65 in Macca's and petrol money and things like that. Probably about 15 hours of his time. And it ended up potentially costing him the relationship that we had. And when I talked to him about this, I said, would you do it again? And he says, every time. And the reason he would do it every time is because he wasn't really concerned about what it cost. He wasn't really concerned about what he had to lose. He was concerned about what was lost. So C3 Hobart, I want to ask one final question. Take that back, I'm going to ask two. The first of these is, what are you prepared to lose for that which is lost? If that's you this morning and you've got someone in your life that you're going after the one, I just want you to reflect on that. As I said, journal it, come back to it in a couple of days, reheat the pizza. What have you got to lose for that which is lost? It might seem significant, but what's even more significant is that which is on the other side of your obedience. The second thing that I want to ask this morning, I just would like a bit of privacy for this. So if you can all close your eyes and just maybe bow your heads if you feel comfortable. I want to ask you guys if there's anyone out there today that feels lost. It's not something to be ashamed of. We all need help in one way or another. And look, you might be feeling like you're the lost sheep right now and that you've bitten off more you can chew. Maybe you went for a job promotion, you got it, and you're way out of your depth. And you're kind of going, God, I need help. I can't do this by myself. Everyone else seems to be more successful, more qualified than I am. Maybe you're the lost coin this morning and you don't really feel like you've got a voice. You're dealing with stuff, but you don't know who to talk to. You don't know who to share it with. You're just sitting at the bottom of the couch, kind of hoping that someone will stumble upon you. Or maybe you feel a little bit like the lost son this morning. That maybe you did know Christ, but you went away. And you're kind of like, look, I want to come back because I know the house of God is where my purpose and destiny is. If you feel lost this morning and you have never met Jesus Christ, we want to take the opportunity to pray with you. Say a simple prayer, invite him into your heart, and actually allow him to dwell there all the days of your life.